I'm Matt.
And I'm Chris.
We're best friends.
And brothers in the fire service. And this is the 360 Podcast. Welcome to another episode of 360 Podcast. As always, I'm here with my buddy Matt. I'm Chris. We again have Captain Johnny Padilla, also Local 3573 Union President here. Very special guest, Colt Waddell with Superstition Fire and Medical. Colt, yes. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time out of your day.
Appreciate you.
Captain Padilla, Johnny, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Back once again.
Yeah.
This time in union garb.
I love it. I love it. Colt, why don't you give us a little, tell us about yourself.
Sure.
How long you been on the job,
Sure. My name is Colt Waddell. I'm the president of the Superstition Firefighters chapter for Local 2260 in the East Valley. So Superstition Fire Medical District serves the communities in and around Apache Junction. So that's the city of Apache Junction, and then the unincorporated areas of Gold Canyon, Peralta, and Entrada de Oro, and then we're strip annexed all the way down to Florence Junction. I've worked for the district for going on 12 years now. 12 years. Yep. I'm a captain with the district. And let's see, what else have I done? I'm also still in the U.S. Army. This is my last year in the U.S. Army.
Thank you for your service, buddy.
Yeah, I'm with the 1st to the 415th. It's a drill sergeant company in Phoenix. I've been a drill sergeant since 2016. Yes, and thank you. I'm honored to be here today.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for the invite. I'm really happy to for our relationship to be developing the way that it is between the east side and the west. I mean, we're a world apart essentially. The far west side and the far east side, but we are all in the same boat here.
For sure.
With the same challenges regarding fire district funding, the growth of our communities. And the impact of our budgets not keeping up with the pace of the economy. Yep. So I'm enormously grateful to have this opportunity to talk more about that and educate the community.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but we're in the middle of a bond campaign right now.
Yep.
Superstition Fire District.
Yep.
It's Proposition 494.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get more into that, but that's about 90% of what I'm doing these days.
Yeah.
All my off-duty time is committed to getting this proposition across the finish line.
Okay.
And it's my first go at running a campaign, but got lots of support from our brothers across the region from 3573, 2260, and so lots to learn, but lots of growth also. And it's exciting. I'm actually enjoying it as effort intense as it is.
Sure.
It's enjoyable because you're having, you get to have a real impact on the future of your organization and the membership specifically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's speak on that. So we find ourselves in districts, Captain, please feel free to chime in here, that we are coming into these budget crises, right? Mm-hmm. 5 short years ago, we've talked about apparatus, building maintenance, things that the community and the public just don't always understand where a lot of the money goes to, right? And it's not the same cost.
Right.
So we're kind of constrained to the money that the districts are getting. And I think it would be a great idea to kind of speak on that so the community and the public understands where the funding comes from and how we're funded.
Right.
So please feel free.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start, because one of the challenges with this, call it a grassroots campaign, we're starting at the lowest level, educating the community so they understand what it is the proposition is going towards. And I think the best place to start is to talk about explain the differences between a fire district and a fire department. I don't know if we're reiterating what you've already spoken about, but reps are good.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
No, this is just, we're speaking about it again because it's very important. We got to get out, right? municipal fire department, excuse me, they get most of their funding from municipal funding, taxes, and so forth. They also get Arizona's shared tax revenue. The shared tax revenue comes from across the whole state. So no matter if a person purchases from within Apache Junction's fire, or Superstitions, you guys fire districts in Gold Canyon and so forth, or they do Sun City West, Sun City, they purchase in Tonopah. Those tax dollars are all collectively put into a pot and shared amongst municipalities. So they get that additional revenue for public safety. Fire districts our funding is primarily from rooftops. We do get some funding from commercial taxes in our districts, but each time a new proposition is passed or something that is passed, it seems like the first thing legislators go for is to lower the tax rate for businesses and commercial properties. So our tax that we're receiving in our districts from commercial is dropping more and more. So we're relying more and more heavily on our residents. And that's our only funding source other than local grants or state grants. We don't get any federal grants other than like FEMA, stuff like that. But municipalities have a lot more grants that they can get from the federal government. So we're very limited in how we collect revenue.
Yeah. So the way that I've summarized this in the public speaking engagements that we've conducted for this bond initiative is, a fire department is a department of a city government, like police, parks, streets. So it's a subheading under a city's organization. And so they're funded from the general revenue, the general fund of the city for operations. And then the big piece that we're looking at here is bonds are used for capital purchases only. So just for example, and backing up, fire districts are their own governmental entity. And we've described it previously as really the lowest form of government, right? Governed by not the city council, mayor, manager, but a governing board, the fire district board, that makes all of the decisions. They're the fire chief's boss, and they sign off and approve the budget and spending, etc. So with a municipality, a budget, when it's budget season, the budget is built around what their projected needs are for that year, and then it's presented to the council and the mayor for approval. So, if you're planning on growth of the organization, additional hires, market increases, COLAs, etc., that's built into this budget that's then presented and approved by the council. With a fire district, and this is a big a blank space in understanding from on the public side, is the county tells us what we have to spend come budget season. We don't request a budget. We're told what we have to spend that year, and we have to make it all fit. And with the legislation that's passed over the years, the voter initiative Proposition 117, which has limited essentially the growth of the net assessed valuation of the fire district to no more than 5% a year. You match that with the inflation that you're seeing in the economy these days.
For sure.
Upwards of 47-50%. Our budgets just are not keeping up. So everything, just like private citizen, groceries are more expensive, gas is more expensive, all of your household goods and services become more expensive as the economy inflates. We see the same thing, just on a macroscopic scale.
For sure.
For an organization for Superstition, we're operating with a $25 million a year budget, operations budget. So when we see increases across the board in our contractual obligations, like dispatch fees, insurance, workers' compensation, healthcare, we can't negotiate those things down. They cost what they cost. And we're seeing increases, operational cost increases from 160% up to 430%. But our budget, the NAV is limited to increases of only 5%. So how do you make that work? And what we've done over the years, because we've lived in this environment, it's forced us to be extremely fiscally responsible, keeping an eye on literally every dollar that is spent, you won't find a more responsible, fiscally responsible level of government anywhere you look than a fire district in Arizona, because we can't overspend. There's no such thing as having a budget deficit, right? If you overspend, then you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, because all the money comes out of one pot. That's a challenge that we continue to try to find a solution for. And really the problem, if you boil it down, the problem is that we don't have a funding mechanism that's tied to the economy, whereas municipalities do through city tax, sales tax, state shared revenue. When the cost of goods and services increase, they're levying taxes on that increased cost. So when a dozen eggs goes from $3 a dozen to $10 a dozen, they're now collecting taxes off that $10 dozen eggs, right? And so their budgets reflect that, and they increase as the economy increases, and so they're able to keep up. Fire districts can't keep up because our sole source of revenue is property taxes,
for sure,
right?
Yeah.
And 117 is limited to that. Senate Bill 1033 has decreased the levy on commercial properties from, it was once at 25%. Now it's working its way down to 15%. So that legislation has shifted the burden of tax levy from businesses, from commercial, onto the residents. And so you've seen an increase in the ceiling for tax rates on private property. And superstition, that's something that we have to be aware of, because no one wants to pay. Property taxes are incredibly unpopular, right?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
And you'll see every time the state looks at reducing the tax burden on citizens and giving breaks and tax freezes and freezes, etc., for certain populations, certain demographics of the population, it's always angled at reducing the property tax levy. You see that with the senior freeze.
Yeah, and that gets really big, because there was a big push this year by Maricopa County to basically educate the homeowners on putting a freeze on what they get taxed on, right, for the residents. What that accounts to is the potential revenue that fire districts can receive and money lost. So, for example, at AFMA, we received notification due to the exemptions that were filed and that were received after the initial revenue source, that they said, this is what your revenue is going to be this year. Then the exemptions got approved for all the special, things that they have set out. So for people like military, people at a certain income, when you get to a certain age, you can apply for an exemption for your home. Well, that resulted in a $1.2 million decrease in the amount of revenue we originally were told we were going to receive and budget for.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
The common person is going to say, well, once you receive that notice, your budget should be adjusted for that $1.2 million loss. But what they're not aware of is we're not notified. We were not notified of the $1.2 million decrease in our revenue until after our budget was approved by the county, because we're required by legislation to have it approved by a certain date. So we approved it by that date, and then we get notification, oh, by the way, we get $1.2 million less.
Yeah.
And
technically, then that money's already assigned to certain places, right?
Correct.
It's going. You need that money.
Right. So then you, as fire districts, as Colton was saying, being, responsible as we are and working within a budget, we have no choice but then to adjust our budget. So how do you adjust the budget, right? We take hits on capital items. We take hits on how soon we can replace a fire truck. How can we fix this fire station? Can we bring it up to code? Because a lot of our fire stations have been around forever. How much money did we have set aside for fuel, right? Fuel's important. We got to get the trucks to the call. How much money do we have set aside for other items? So it's a huge hit, and this is where the bonds come in play. Like Colt was stating, their bond, we have 2 bonds running because we're an authority. We have multiple fire districts. We have Prop 407 and 408 that we're trying to get the information out to voters to make an educated vote on the reason for the bond, as we've been talking about here.
Yeah.
To help with those shortfalls in budgeting.
Yeah.
I would assume. So how does that tie back into the shared taxes? You guys were talking about shared taxes. Is that something that is worked on for future? The bonds are something that we're trying to get right now to help adjust for 5, 10, 15, 20 years for budget shortfalls.
Right.
Long term, that shared tax revenue you were speaking on, I mean, I want to try and put it in perspective for like people in the community watching this. You had mentioned eggs, right? And I'm going to use Sun City West because that's where I work. Somebody buys a dozen eggs in Sun City West for $10. The tax on that goes into a pot, right? And gets distributed to the surrounding cities that we border, which is Peoria and Surprise.
It gets spread to cities all over the state, but yes.
But those cities get it. And I'm using those 2 cities, not to love working with those cities, but to give you the example of our district doesn't see a red cent of that, but yet our fire trucks cross those lines to go into those cities to provide a service. So that's where, and we're spending fuel, man hours, maintenance on vehicle, all that stuff comes into play that I don't think the community realizes why there's some of those shortfalls.
Sure.
Yeah,
So
the sales tax that they're paying isn't coming back into the community that they're paying.
Correct.
That tax,
Right.
It's getting spread out to other cities.
yeah, so what we're talking about is state shared revenue. State shared revenue makes up a good portion of municipal budgets. State shared revenue is those taxes that are collected like at the state level, pooled, and then distributed back down to municipalities based on their population relative to the population of other municipalities. So that includes things like, and I've got them listed here, that the vehicle license tax, the highway user fees, the state sales tax, and state income tax. So if you are a resident of, say, I'll speak for my fire district, you're a resident of the city of Apache Junction, okay? And your fire protection and EMS is provided by the fire district. You're paying your state income tax, state sales tax. When you go to register your vehicle, you're paying the taxes on the vehicle registration, the highway user fees. All that money is funneled up to the state and then distributed back down to the cities to spend on public safety, etc. When your municipality is serviced by a fire district, though, not a penny of that state shared revenue is funneled to the fire district, providing that fire and EMS protection within those city limits and as well as outside the city limits. So that really is that's a discussion that we need to dig further into at every level.
For sure.
Figure out how do we balance that equation, because you have residents who are paying taxes but not receiving any of the services that those taxes are intended for. Rather, they are then paying a property tax levy by the fire district to make sure that truck and those crews are available for their emergencies. So the city, the cities that do not provide fire protection and EMS but receive the state shared revenue are able to spread that money, and they're spending it on their police department, or they're stacking it up, spending it somewhere else, but there's no obligation for them to contribute any of that to the fire district that's providing those services to the city. That's really it's a missing link that I don't know if it was. I suppose it wasn't predicted would be an occurrence.
Yeah.
In our for Superstition Fire Medical District, we started in 1955 as a volunteer fire department, fire district approved by the Pinal County Board of Supervisors. This was the city of Apache Junction was not incorporated until 1978. So you went 23 years before a city existed, but the fire district was there. So that's when the city was incorporated, the fire district already existed. There was no need for them to start a fire department. And nothing budged from there. We continue to service that city as we always have since 1955, as well as the unincorporated areas outside of Apache Junction. So I don't think that the residents have any idea that they're paying taxes and not receiving the services that those taxes are intended for.
That's a plan for the future, right?
Mhm.
We're hopeful that that's one mechanism we can
Mhm.
work on to help fix funding
Mhm.
down the road. But the bonds now
Right.
are a bridge to get us to whatever the future funding mechanism is. Maybe it's that,
Right.
maybe it's something else.
Right.
From a taxpayer standpoint, right? Like
Mhm.
as an employee, I know how expensive things are. I know why we need this bond. From a taxpayer standpoint, when we're talking about fiscal responsibility and running as lean as we can, and everything's more expensive, the first thing I think is like, well, my life is more expensive. I can make cuts. I can do this, right? But I think what the outside public doesn't see is that fire districts have been running that way since they started.
Mhm.
We've already tightened the belt as far as it tightens. And when we're talking about price increases for our capital costs, which are fire trucks, EMS equipment,
Mhm.
buildings, it's not the same increase we're seeing in our private lives, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
my groceries got expensive, but I can manage it. A fire truck went from 600,000 to 1.2 million in
Mhm.
3 years,
Mhm.
and that is a gap that is so far that it doesn't matter how much more we squeeze out of that belt. We're not covering that difference, right?
Yeah,
Right.
it's not only the cost of the apparatus, right? The cost of a fire truck, the cost of an ambulance, right,
Mhm.
to do it. What people need to realize is the maintenance cost as well. So, for example, speaking, I'll speak to AFMA in some outlying areas that we serve. Some of the outlying areas we serve are all dirt roads, completely dirt roads. To get a patient from the hospital, or excuse me, from the site of where their incident is to a hospital, it's a 35-45 minute drive, right? And it's taking sometimes up to 15-20 minutes to get off a dirt road.
Sure.
The maintenance cost is not the same as that of a private vehicle. You have these apparatus that cost millions of dollars with an additional hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment on there that get beat up. They get the dirt, the sun, that they go through a lot of abuse. We have to keep those up. We have to keep the maintenance on these vehicles up and keep them running, because if someone calls 911 and we go to respond to their house and the vehicle breaks down because of lack of maintenance, or we have ambulances in our authority currently that we run so much that we put 100,000 miles on them in a year's time. And for a passenger vehicle, a regular person say, oh, I got 100,000 miles on my vehicle. I better start looking at a new vehicle.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a little harder when that vehicle runs you to equip it and everything, especially an ambulance, to say over $1 million once you get the vehicle and equip it and get it running. You're talking, especially in our authority, we have 22 ambulances.
Yeah.
We have over 13 frontline fire trucks, plus specialty ladder trucks. And to try and keep up with the maintenance and replacement schedule, to make sure every time someone calls 911 that somebody shows up and there's a vehicle there, it's those costs to maintain it that continue to rise. As Cole stated earlier, the percentage of goes up, 40, 50.
Yeah.
Some vehicle percentages have gone up 400%.
Yeah.
And once again, we're here raising our revenue no more than 5% a year.
Yeah.
So that's the gap that we're looking to cover with the bond initiative, is to cover that gap, just to continue to provide the level of service that we provide today. This isn't to increase
Yeah.
service.
Mhm.
This isn't to add additional ambulances, additional fire trucks, anything like that. This bond is truly just to keep us functioning.
Mhm. Yeah, response times are everything in public safety.
For sure.
Talking about for EMS calls or fire calls, time is tissue or time is property loss. With modern fire behavior, modern construction, fire burns hotter and faster than ever before. It's a fire doubles in size every 60 seconds. So we're very proud of our response times. You know, we're operating at the gold standard, 4 minutes and 30 seconds on average for code 3 calls. And the bond, every capital priority that's this bond is intended for is aimed at maintaining our excellent response times, maintaining our compliance with industry standards across the board, whether that's cancer mitigation, decontamination, and then our ISO rating. You know, and that's another thing we get into. Sure. I don't know if it's too early to get into that during this talk, but 50% of the ISO rating is the Insurance Services Office rating. It's basically the report card that a fire department or fire district receives that evaluates your ability to respond to emergencies, and it's tied to your ISO rating that determines the insurance premium that a resident will pay for their property. So it's kind of a backwards scale. The lower the ISO number, the higher the rating. So an ISO number 1 is the best you can get. ISO 2 is basically no fire protection services. Superstition Fire Medical District is currently an ISO 2, which is the top 3% across the nation. The only way we could be better, the only way we could achieve that ISO 1 is if we had a hydrant grid in all of the unincorporated areas that we service. There's nothing that we can do to control that, you know, to put in more fire hydrants. So we carry the water with us on our water tenders when we're going to those areas without a hydrant grid. 50% of the ISO rating is determined based on your response times, the training of your personnel, your staffing, your emergency vehicles. And then 40% of the ISO rating is based off of your water supply, hydrants or water tenders. So, you know, focusing on response time here being so important to emergency services, if you have old trucks and the trucks that we need to replace are upwards of 20, 25 years old. Yeah. These are trucks that are currently in reserve status. The industry standard for emergency vehicles is 1 to 10 years. That brand new vehicle up to the 10-year mark should be a used frontline. Years 10 through 15, that truck should be moved into a reserve status as a backup truck to keep the miles off of it and reduce the maintenance costs. And then after year 15, the industry standard is that truck is pulled from the line entirely and offloaded, sold, or used for parts, but not operated as an emergency vehicle any longer. We operate our own fleet maintenance shop, annex shop. Our mechanics are fantastic. They keep our trucks on the road. Sure. But we're stretching at the seams there because we have a number of especially our wildland apparatus, our Type 6 brush trucks, a water tender out in Gold Canyon is 25 years old. Yeah. We have a reserve engine that's 21 years old. Our reserve ladder is pushing 22 years old now. These trucks are still on the road. They're still responding to emergencies because we have to keep them on the road. Yeah. But those maintenance costs are just unreasonable at this point. Yeah. So when an older truck that is difficult to maintain is out of service, that has an impact on your response times. Absolutely. When that old truck doesn't start in the morning or breaks down in the middle of the call and you have to pull somebody else in to run that call for you, you're impacting response times. Yep. So it's essential that we maintain our capital replacement schedule. Absolutely. Replace these trucks when they're due by industry standard in order to maintain the response time that we have. We're not buying new trucks to improve response time. It's already fantastic. You know, and same with, I'll get into our other capital priorities here, but like Johnny was saying, the maintenance on these vehicles is expensive. It's a 46-ton truck, big toolbox that's running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to quite often the worst days of people's lives. We're calling because there's a problem. They're calling us because there's a problem that they can't fix and they need us there now. And they expect us to be at our best, right? Exactly. And not to cut you off, but that goes into a whole nother thing about morale around the station, safety. You're in a 20-year-old engine that the AC works on and off. It's 115 outside, and you're running. My station, we could run anywhere from 10 to 18 calls in 24 hours. Yeah. That mentally brings you down, that physically can affect you, and then you're not delivering the service that you promised the community you want to deliver. Right. So there's so many facets of how this can affect
everybody.
Right. Yeah. One thing that it's important that the residents or all of the voters are reminded of is that when you live in a fire district, you deserve the same level of service that you would receive in the middle of a large municipality, in the middle of Mesa, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tempe. Those departments that have very healthy budgets and are able to maintain these capital replacement schedules. The residents of fire districts deserve that same level of service, and we have been able to provide that same exact level of service in the auto wait system, operating on the same SOPs, operating the same vehicles, going to the same academies, delivering the exact same level of service that you receive in a large municipality, delivered at the district level. We joke, we provide the champagne service on a beer budget.
For sure.
We've managed to do that, but we're at the point now where if something is not done, we can't continue to do that. And the resident of a fire district does not deserve any less than a resident of a municipality.
Correct.
I think that's really important. And I think that from the outside looking in, right, they don't see these problems.
Right.
They see, hey, I called 911, you were there in 5 minutes, you had an ambulance, your truck worked. And that's something that I'm very proud of. I think that us as districts have done a fantastic job of providing a high level of service, and we maintain it. And I don't want you to worry about that.
Right.
To some degree, right? When you need us, I want us to show up and I want us to do our job and give you the best that we absolutely can and have. From the outside perspective, we get these questions that are like, well, how come you guys need this? We don't see any issues. There aren't issues with response times. And it's almost like, hey, well, because we didn't ask, because we don't want to ask, because now we've gotten to a point where we have to.
Yeah.
So
right?
that brings up a great point that most citizens don't see, right? Is why are we asking for the bonds to be taken to public vote? And most people who are going to vote on these bonds are going to vote based on what they see up front. So when they drive by any of our stations, they see a fire station, they see the newest truck that we have in our fleets, they see the newest ambulance in our fleets, they see someone that's ready. All they know is they've called 911 and we showed up on time. So let's talk about what they don't see. What they don't see is that truck that they're seeing is not the newest truck on the fleet. At 10 o'clock that morning or at 2 o'clock that morning, that truck broke down, and this is actually a reserve truck that's back there. And the mechanics are hastily looking for parts, trying to fix it to put a vehicle back in service. What they don't see is the fire truck that's at another station right now is 25 years old. It's 25 years old because the truck that's normally in there, maintenance issues, right? Because these trucks take a lot of maintenance. What they don't see is when they drive by is that building in some of our areas, they're 40 years old. The electric doesn't work in the top bedrooms, or the AC. There's been no AC in that facility for approximately 2 weeks now. They're working on trying to get it fixed. Because if they looked at AFMA, if you take AFMA, for example, and anybody in the public can ask, what's your capital budget? And they'll say, there's $10 million in the budget. They're going to say, well, why do you need money? Because you look at that $10 million, and every penny is earmarked. So being fiscally responsible, all us fire districts, we take that money, we earmark it, we set it aside and say, we know we're going to need this truck this year. This maintenance on this building has to be done at this time. We have to replace this EMS equipment. We have to replace this monitor. We have to replace this stuff that we're going to service people with. Everything is earmarked and it's connected to that budget. When other stuff comes up along the way, let's say a truck, an engine blows, or a truck got in an accident, something happens that was not budgeted for. Where does that money come from? Because we can't, like Colt stated earlier, which is the biggest difference between municipal fire districts municipal fire departments and fire districts is at that level of the department and municipality, they can look at other areas. They have multiple divisions that they can move money around.
Yeah.
Where do we go for money? The county already said this is all you collected, all you're going to collect in taxes. This is what you get. So this is the reason for the bond to create a capacity. If the bond is passed, let's say, right, it gets passed, and let's say we'll say you get $60 million. The fire none like neither of our fire districts are going to go in there and pull out $60 million.
Yeah.
What they're going to continue doing is working off their capital current budget,
Sure.
and they're going to pool a little bit at a time as needed the money to offset what's truly needed. They're not going to go and say, wow, let's go and put a brand new station over here because it will look great. No, they're going to pull the money to say, let's finally repair this station and bring it up standard.
Yeah.
This truck that's 25 years old, let's get rid of it and get a truck on the street that is reliable and safe, that will make it to the call and make sure every member on there is safe. That's the reasons for the bond.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that I'm hoping the public, like they'll see this podcast and understand where this is coming from.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to note, I love that you're here talking about your bond today. We're facing the same problems, right? Like
here in Maricopa County, let's just say it, the majority of the citizens in Arizona live in Maricopa County.
Yeah.
This Maricopa County makes most of the decisions for the state.
Yeah.
So when we're up here talking, we're not only talking on behalf of our fire districts, we're talking behalf of fire districts across the state that don't have the ability to have this voice.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of La Paz County. La Paz County fire districts, Quartzsite and McMullen Valley. They have no additional revenue other than rooftops. Quartzsite's a lot like Apache Junction, where the Quartzsite Fire District services the town. The town doesn't have its own fire department. It's a fire district. So their revenue is based on rooftops. Well, they don't have the amount of rooftops that you do in Maricopa County. They just don't. So they're so underfunded there, even with increasing their tax rates, that they can do everything they can do legally, that they have zero administrative staff, and they share one fire chief. You got Buckskin, Parker, and I believe it's Bouse Fire District in La Paz County, 3 fire departments who share one fire chief. All because of lack of additional revenue and funding.
Yeah.
Where we have more rooftops.
Yeah.
So it allows us the ability to compensate for a lack of revenue. But if you look around us, it's
the same thing.
It's probably even worse.
And I think that us asking for a bond, you guys asking for a bond, speaks to it's a systemic problem, right? This isn't an authority problem. This isn't a superstition problem. This is hey, every district is facing this issue. We have a funding problem statewide. And I'm not happy that you guys are dealing with the same issues that we're dealing with, that you're also asking for a bond, but it does allow us to say, like, look, it isn't the authority. It isn't you guys. This is everybody. This is our way of tackling it.
What I do like is we have a common issue that we're trying to tackle together. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
So then I kind of start to worry about it. And Johnny, I think we talked about this a couple months ago, that, we also have to look at the potential that these bonds don't pass, right? So again, being fiscally responsible, what does that look like for Superstition Fire and Medical?
Yeah, so it's going to be tight. So there's not a lot of options there. Essentially, we would have to, right now, the tax rate for fire districts in Arizona has a ceiling of $3.75 per $100 of assessed limited property value, and we have diligently remained below that ceiling intentionally to maintain like that rainy day fund.
Sure.
Right now, we're operating just 6 cents underneath that ceiling. So at 369 is a tax rate in Superstition. So if the bond doesn't pass, the fire chief is going to have to raise that tax rate to the ceiling. And what does 6 cents amount to? Not a whole lot. We're talking maybe $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a significant amount considering a single fire engine is $1.2 million.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a fire station build is anywhere from $6 to $10 million.
Mm-hmm.
So what have we done in the past? You know, we've remained fiscally responsible. We've done the most. We've done the most with the least. Often, what we need to do is lease purchases, essentially, you know, like a car note on a fire truck.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically take a loan out, just like a homeowner would take a loan out to buy a car over 5 to 7 years, but that bill is very high. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the lease purchase on a fire truck is like $150,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lease purchase on a fire station is necessarily much larger. You're
For
talking
sure.
like $400,000 a year. So that little tax rate increase is not going to cover a whole lot, even with lease purchases. In addition to that, you're looking at further cuts.
Sure.
You know, you're going to have to cut wherever it is that you can. We've diligently, responsibly made some increases across all of our budget line items for essential things like training. Not by a whole lot. We don't have deep training budgets. I'm sure that no fire district really
Sure.
does. Training, unfortunately, is quite often the first thing cut from a budget. And that's how our firefighters keep their tools sharp. And that's not even to mention the positive impact to morale and motivation and cohesion that
Sure.
you gain from a solid training division and a well-funded training division. So training would have to be cut.
And I think that I don't mean to cut you
Yeah.
off, buddy, but that's huge.
It's
That's
enormous.
absolutely huge,
Mhm.
because when you dial 911,
Mhm.
you want somebody who is properly trained,
Mhm.
actively using those tools,
Mhm.
to show up to your house to be able to deliver that service to you.
Mhm.
And if you're going to take that away, it should go on the person to maintain training. But
Mhm.
you know, not everybody has the time. I'm not going to make excuses, but
Mhm.
still, that's one of the main things
Mhm.
that people want to call us for, is to know that when they use our services, they get well-rounded individuals. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're ready to mitigate that issue.
Mhm.
But you take away that training, that's going to be really, really hard to do.
It's significant.
In comparison to the bond, right? So the lease purchase has a direct impact on the budget of the fire district.
Mhm.
So if we do lease purchases as fire districts for either the station stuff or for apparatus, right? The budget has to be increased. It has to be increased. So it has to max out. That takes away any safety net for the future.
Mhm.
Takes it 100% away. The bond is separate from the budget of the fire district. So the bond, for example, in the authority, if you were in, let's say, North County, if they took the whole bond and utilized it, it would come out to, I believe, $44 for the year, to the
Mhm.
cost of the average homeowner.
Okay.
But what it leaves that the capacity in your current operating budget. It also decreases the need to have to increase that operating budget every year. It's an option that has to be weighed by the voters of, do we want the safety net of knowing we have space in our current budget and we're not having to increase the mill rate every year? Or do we want to do the bond, right? Are we going to do that bond where we're just going to leave that alone
Mhm.
for the meantime, and
Sure.
that way we focus
Right.
on the capital.
Yeah.
Yeah, the focus, our focus has continuously been with our budget, is to create stability over time, while maximizing efficiency. If the bond doesn't pass, there are capital items that must be purchased in the near term, including new Fire Station 266, which is, there's no question, we can't delay that build because the Superstition Vistas community is developing. There's a need there. Without that fire station, response times will just be completely obliterated, because we'll have in-town units driving, responding in 12 to 15 minutes to that community, or leaning even more heavily onto our auto aid partners. If the bond doesn't pass, we're looking at losing that layer of budget stability and security by the loss of the safety net, with by losing that gap, that gap between where we're at now and where the ceiling is. Additionally, what do we do? Well, many of those capital items would need to be delayed even further, and we've delayed them continuously for a number of years. So those 25-year-old trucks are not going to get replaced.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see increased, a further increase in maintenance cost to keep them on the road. And then beyond that, it'll be tight times for a while.
Sure.
While we wait for the budget to wait for that budget to develop over time at that 5 cent per year ceiling. So we'll continue to do the job. We'll
Sure.
continue to do the absolute best that we can with what we have, but you may very well see, because I got to remain neutral here. You
Sure.
will very well see impacts to service delivery.
Sure.
Because the organization won't be able to grow to match the growing needs of the community. The population growth is not going to slow down. The call volume increases are not going to slow down. We're just going to get further and further behind, which makes the future fixes even more difficult to achieve because that gap continues to grow.
Yeah.
The bond is giving us that ability, like Johnny said, to maintain stability and allow us to make these capital replacements in a time frame that makes sense and space out those replacements accordingly, so that you're not doing forklift upgrades in the future when there's more of a realistic broad fix to the fire district funding mechanism. Proposition 494 is, again, that's the Superstition Fire Medical District bond authorization that's on this November's ballot. And I'll start with and I'll finish with this. It's a mail-in ballot only. There won't be polling locations open. The ballots will be mailed to all registered voters in the fire district at the beginning of October. They got to check their mail. They got to fill it out, and they have to return it through the snail mail no later than October 28th to allow that 7-day buffer between when the mail is picked up and when it's delivered to the county recorder's office. So Prop 494 is we got here. We assembled a citizen advisory committee. It's a group of residents in the community who are well-respected, relevant community stakeholders, HOA presidents, leaders in the community, and we brainstormed this issue that we're having. We presented all of the options to them, and over a period between February and April, we met with them. It was information delivered by fire hose, about 16 hours of education we provided the Citizen Advisory Committee. We took them on station tours, showed them what we're dealing with, and they came back together at the end of that, and they unanimously recommended going out for bond authorization in the amount of $33.8 million. And they made that recommendation to our governing board, the fire board. The fire board approved it to approve the call for election. And since then, we've been off to the races. The bond is focused, again, we'll reiterate this, bonds are for capital purchases only. What's a capital purchase? Capital are those items that you can see, touch, hold, and feel. It's real durable goods, fire, emergency vehicles, facilities, and equipment. Bond money cannot be spent on operational costs like wages and benefits and insurance, keeping the lights on, etc.
Sure.
All of those items will continue to be paid through our normal budgetary process. The bond will be directed just for capital purchases, and like Johnny said, those bonds will be sold as needed, not all up front. And so that will space out that tax levy for the taxpayers.
Mm-hmm.
So it won't be everything all up front. The bond will be paid back over 20 years. The cost of the bond is 27 cents per $100 of assessed limited property value, which equates to, for the average homeowner in the fire district, the average property value, full cash value in the fire district is $480,000 to about $500,000. Limited property value of the full cash value is about $180,000, and then the assessed limited property value is 10% of that, so about $18,000 on the average home. Bottom line is the average cost for a homeowner in the fire district is about $48 a year or $4 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Just $4 a month to invest $33.8 million into their fire district.
Sure.
we presented all of our capital needs to the Citizen Advisory Committee. So they got the full look at everything that needs to be replaced. This got into PPE, turnouts, SCBAs, radios, heart monitors, of course, the facilities, remodels, builds, the investment in our training center. And then we narrowed that down to just that. We ranked them in priority order, and then we focused on the highest priority items. And that is why there's a decimal point in our ask for the bond, is because it's a specific dollar amount. Every dollar is accounted for. There's no wiggle room in there for special projects or anything like that. That $33.8 million will be directed to the Fire Station 266 build, which is going in on Ironwood and Warner. Again, fire districts are not eligible by law to receive impact fees for new development, where cities can assess impact fees. If a new neighborhood goes into a city, they can assess an impact fee to that community and that developer to recoup costs for the development of infrastructure, including like firehouses and police stations. We can't do that as a fire district. So we were fortunate enough for the developer of the new area to grant us a piece of land in the area that they purchased so that we can build the fire station, but we've got to foot the bill for the build. So 266 will go in on Ironwood and Warner and service that whole new area of a City of Apache Junction to the south of the US 60. And that has to be built. We have no ability to negotiate or push that date out any further. And the estimate on a fire station build these days is about $10 million. And I'm hopeful that that's on the high end. I'm hopeful that we, through the RFQ process, that we're able to identify a contractor and architect who can do it for an amount lower than that. I'm hoping in the $6 to $8 million range.
Sure. So
that we can reallocate some of that bond money to other capital priorities, or just save the taxpayers that money.
Yeah.
When you go out for a bond, you don't have to spend all that money.
Yeah.
It can be held back, and then the taxpayers are not liable for that dollar amount. There's a number of vehicles that need to be replaced. In fact, like I said, we have 5 emergency vehicles that are well outside of their industry standard service life. That includes 2 Type 6 brush trucks, which are each about 20 years old. The Type 6 brush truck is the pickup truck style fire apparatus that's 4-wheel drive, goes off-road to fight brush fires. A water tender in Gold Canyon, tender 264, which is 25 years old.
Wow.
That's a 2001 build. So that needs to be replaced, and it's essential, like as I said earlier, for our ISO rating.
Yeah.
There is a lot of property on that east side of the fire district in Gold Canyon that is not serviced by a hydrant grid. So whenever there's a fire, we got to bring the water with us. And so Tender 4 is absolutely essential to our deployment model. So that one's getting replaced. We need to replace one of our reserve engines, a Type 1 engine, a pumper. And again, you guys said it earlier, engines used to cost about $500,000 to $600,000. Today, they're $1.2 million and increasing. We're estimating a 10%. This is what we've witnessed. It's about a 10% inflation cost every 6 months.
Wow.
On a fire truck. And you're looking at a 3-year build.
I was just going to ask you, the build time keeps going up too, it seems.
Yeah, build time is at least 3 years.
Not only that, though, on it is when you ordered a fire truck, they gave you the cost.
Mm-hmm.
And when the build was done, unless you made change orders, that was the cost. And today's contract with your fire trucks and even ambulances today, they put in the contract that unforeseen costs, or they put it as inflationary costs. They put inflationary cost thing in there to where what you thought you were paying here, by the time you're done, if inflation has gone up, that's your new cost for the truck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at the end of the build, you either accept the new price or they sell it to somebody else.
Somebody else is waiting there to snag it.
There's people waiting. And people are gonna say, well, just don't sign the contract. Well, then you don't get the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Type 1 pumper, $1.2 million at a minimum. We need to replace one of our aerial apparatus, one of our ladder trucks. This would be to replace our current reserve ladder, which is a 2007 build. So that ladder is 23 years old now, right? 23. I'm sorry,
2007. It'd be
2000,
18.
yeah, 18 years old. It's an 18-year-old ladder. So that one needs to be replaced.
Sure.
The new ladder truck is about $2.5 million. You know, just a few years ago, a ladder truck cost about $1.5 million.
Yeah.
So nearly doubled on a ladder truck. And again, a 3 to 4 year build on a ladder truck. Our current frontline ladder truck is a 2012 build. So by the time the new one shows up, if we can order this one this spring, if the bond passes, the frontline apparatus will already be outside of its reserve lifetime.
Sure.
So, but we will stretch that out, keep
Yeah.
the miles off of it, and make it work. So it's apparatus costs. We need to invest in station remodels or construction. Station 261 was built in 1992, so it's 33 years old now, and it has just some serious infrastructure problems. When it was built in 92, there was no sewer system out there that
Sure.
ran down Ironwood, so it's on an old septic that, I'll be honest with you, that septic backs up quite frequently into the showers inside the station. We've had mold issues in the walls, so
Sure.
we've several times had to pull drywall out for mold mitigation. The apparatus there, the station was built before, unlike modern fire stations where you have cancer mitigation strategies in the construction build. Our turnout gear, our protective equipment is stored in the apparatus bay, continuously exposed to the carcinogens from
Sure.
From our vehicles passing in and out. So we've got a quote on a remodel of Station 261, which would be a full gut of that station. Essentially, the whole thing needs to be redone. And that's an expensive quote. We're looking at, in addition to that, an apparatus bay extension. So total cost of that project, if that's the direction that the district decides to go, is about $7 million. So just about the same cost it would be to rebuild that station.
Sure.
And so I think that we're now leaning more towards just rebuilding 261 so it's fit right for us.
Sure.
And it's a good, solid station that will last us another 30 years.
Yeah.
Station 263 is in need of some investment for remodel and some construction projects. Station 3 was built in 1996 and initially intended for 6 personnel. It was 4 firefighters and the battalion chief and the BSO. Today we have 12 firefighters operating out of that station. It's now a dual company station. So the house was not meant to hold that many people. And over the years, we've been able to do some additions there to create more bunk space, but we're at 100% capacity and the bathrooms have never been remodeled. So you've got 12 guys there, 24 at shift change, and you still only have 3 toilets. These are morale impacts and motivation
Absolutely,
impacts.
for sure.
Invest some money into Station 3. That's I believe we're looking at about $2 million invested into Station 3 for those necessary remodels, just to modernize the facility and help with capacity. Our training center. Currently, Superstition Fire District operates our regional training center out of what was the old Thunder Mountain Middle School on 16th Avenue in Goldfield. It's literally an old junior high. It's still owned by Apache Junction School District, and we have been tenants of that place since 2012. So as a tenant, it does not make sense to invest serious capital into improvements into a facility that you don't own and likely will never own. So we've earmarked about $9 million for a training center. We would ideally like to do a new build for us for a simple but useful training center. Currently, we cannot do that. The middle school is not fit for multi-company training evolutions, multi-company MCSs. We can't do live burns there. It's essentially just classrooms and office space. You can pull some hose in the back for some simple single unit drills, but to conduct the type of training that is necessary and required as partners in the auto weight system, we have to do those multi-company trainings.
Sure, absolutely.
So currently what we do is we send units outside of the district to the academies in municipalities, to Mesa, Gilbert. We've gone to Chandler, Tempe, Scottsdale. We've gone as far out as, we've gone all the way out to Phoenix to conduct that realistic training. When a unit leaves the district, you're down 1 unit. That necessarily impacts your response times because now those other vehicles in the fire district are making up for the loss of that unit while they're out training. If we have a training center where we can conduct this training within the boundaries of the fire district, our units are not having to leave. They can remain in service while we're training, and it will help us to maintain our currently fantastic response times.
For sure.
Part of the fire district, way out east on the 60, there's a community called Entrada del Oro, and it's developing and it's growing. It's even beyond Peralta. There will be a future need to build a fire station out there as that community develops. So part of the bond money is intended to secure a piece of land right now for the future planning of Station 267 build.
Okay.
Currently, call volume is pretty low out there. I think we pulled about 40 to 50 calls a year annually.
Okay.
So right now, it doesn't make sense to build a fire station. They're serviced by Station 264, which is a little jaunt down the US 60 to get into that neighborhood. But eventually, it's for certain there will be a need for a fire station. So we want to get ahead of that, plan for the future, and purchase that land. All of these capital priorities are aimed at they're things that I've mentioned previously: maintaining our excellent response times, maintaining industry standards, including ISO. If our response times are impacted negatively, if our training is impacted negatively, if our vehicles are not well maintained and in good operational capacity, it's a very good chance that our ISO rating may be impacted.
Sure.
Which will directly impact residents' insurance premium rates.
Yeah. So the community loses in essence.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's a loss for everybody.
Yeah.
Not just the community. I mean, personnel, people working there. Definitely, that's going to be a big impact on everybody.
Yeah, for sure. And it's important that all of the residents understand that they're the stakeholders in the fire district.
Sure.
We are their fire district.
Yeah.
We operate their equipment. We operate their facilities. If you view the fire district and all of its capital as personal property, when you own a vehicle or a home for that matter for 20, 25, 30 years, you have to expect to invest and improve on that property, to maintain it, to improve it, to meet the needs of your family. We're doing the same thing, just on a larger scale, so that we can continue to deliver that excellent top tier service to the community. The other big thing that all of these capital items are directed towards and have a positive impact on are recruitment and retention.
Sure.
You mentioned it earlier, but all of these items, your facilities, the vehicles that you operate, are a factor that candidates, new recruits, take into account when they're choosing where to work. I don't know about you guys, but when I was hired 12 years ago, the recruitment landscape was entirely different. It was highly competitive. I remember standing in line at the Tri-City testing in Scottsdale and Tempe with 5,000 other candidates on 3 separate days. So 15,000 candidates signing up to just take a test. And this was 2009, 2010 when I first started trying. So it was the middle of the recession. Nobody was really hiring. But you had 15,000 candidates showing up for what ended up being 2 jobs.
Sure.
Today, that's not the landscape these days. Previously you had candidates raining from the sky and beating down your door for a job. Today, the ball is really in the court of the candidates.
Yeah.
They can choose where they want to work.
Absolutely.
You just don't have, and the military is seeing the same issue. Police are seeing the same issue. And I don't honestly believe that it's a matter of a lack of willingness for public service on the part of the younger generation looking for the job. I think that it is has a lot more to do with qualifications for the job.
Sure.
It's harder. Even those who are willing and able to, or who want to do the job, may not have the ability to do the job for background issues or physical limitations, etc. So we have to be, in every, not just fire districts, but municipalities are in competition with one another for the highest qualified candidates here. So capital items for sure, your facilities, your training budgets are all factors that play into a candidate's decision on where they want to work. And so we want to attract the best and the brightest candidates who will deliver the highest level of service and be the greatest professionals in our community.
Sure.
So all of these items have an impact on that, including retention. After we hire a candidate, we put them through the academy, maybe we put them through paramedic school.
Sure.
We train them up and give them experience. They're 3 years on the job, and now they're looking to jump to another organization, right? They're
Yeah.
going to go to where they feel the grass is greener.
Sure.
We'd like to retain those candidates in the fire district. And if we're struggling with outdated equipment, outdated vehicles, outdated facilities, the decision is a little bit easier for them to go somewhere else.
They're working with the developer to have the developer provide a piece of land for a station, right? Either donate it, reduce rate, whatever it is, they're making efforts. Same thing in our authority, in Arizona Fire and Medical. In the Whitman area that we serve, Fire Station 335 now got renumbered. Fire Station 335, the property that sits on belongs to Carioca Oil. It was not a purchase made by the fire district due to lack of funding for capital needs.
Sure.
We were able at the time to work with the landowner, Carioca Oil, to provide the land. When we expanded the building because of needs, because of growth of the community, we were able to get more land there. In Sun City West, North County area, Fire Station 334 sits on land that's owned by APS. It's leased to the authority. These are the types of acquisitions and stuff that are made by current fire districts to try and work around the lack of revenue for capital. So if a citizen says, why the need? Why the need for bond? As you stated earlier, tighten your budget. At my home, I tighten my budget. That's what I do at home, right? We're at a point where fire districts have not only tightened their budgets, but have found creative ways to acquire property, to acquire buildings, to the point where we're getting to a point where there's no more magical rabbits to pull out of a magical hat.
Yeah, no more juice in the lemon.
Yeah, it's been squeezed.
When Arizona Fire and Medical went to our board and started to talk to them over 2 years ago about bonds, about giving a bond to the public to consider at an election. We were hit with the board saying, show us every way possible that you have done or can do to work within the constraints of the current budget. The only reason we're here today talking about the bond issue, because I can tell you, our department, Arizona Fire and Medical Authority, Superstition, both of our management and our labor groups have just bent over backwards to find ways to work within a budget. We're at the point of that's not enough anymore.
Yeah.
If you want your response times kept, if you want the same level of service kept, but more importantly, you want the future secured.
Yeah.
If you want the future secured for the response that you get and type of service you get, this is why the bond is being put forward.
Yeah. And that's good. I mean, it gets kind of scary when I think about it, at least. Just, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but we have to be realistic, right?
Absolutely.
And to talk to the community, we spoke on it that last time, Captain, with Chief Els here, was that there is that potential. You named it. Response times, vehicles. You pick up 911, you want us there in 4 minutes. If that turns into 8 minutes, time is tissue. Then what happens? You know, unfortunately, that's a reality that can be faced. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Hopefully we get everything we need.
Yep.
And we keep doing what all districts have been doing, fiscally responsible, the training, the apparatus, everything that we need to do, provide the service for the community. It just kind of, it scares me, the unknown, right? And, you know, as a community member, if I was paying into this, I'd really want to be researching and finding as much information out as possible just to make my own educated decision.
Right.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it sounds like for both of us, the cost of the taxpayer is so minimal to have such a great impact.
Sure.
You know, $4 a month
Sure.
on average You know, and if you have $1 million full cash value home, then you're looking at $8 a month.
Yeah.
You have a $250,000 full cash value home, you're looking at $2 a month.
Yeah.
These are literally pennies.
Yeah.
For a massive investment in the fire district that belongs to the residents.
For
And
sure.
it's an investment in your community, the quality of life in your community.
Yeah.
And I think that honestly, voters, residents, property owners do have an interest in maintaining and improving the quality of life in their community, because that's good for your property values.
Absolutely.
You know, you want to attract investment and you want to attract development in your areas so that your community continues to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not making the necessary investments to maintain your services, just like maintaining your home, you're going to see a reduction. You may very well see a reduction in property values. You know, your community becomes less attractive to investment.
Sure.
So even from a business perspective, it's a smart business decision.
Sure.
To make necessary investments, to do normal, really what it is normal maintenance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To match the needs of a community, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to growth is not going to slow down. Fire districts in the Maricopa County area, you look at the periphery of the county, it's all fire districts surrounding the municipal areas. So we are where the growth is occurring.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
As we spread out towards the east and towards the west. So they're new communities. We want to attract young families.
Yeah.
We're going to develop roots and be there for a long time. So this is just an improvement in where you live.
Yeah,
that's all that it is. And most importantly, stating that this is a mail-in ballot only. It's important that everybody votes one way or another. Please check the mail. Please fill out the ballot. Please return it on time, because it's an off-cycle election. Historically, you have a challenge getting people to vote during these elections. But these are important topics.
Absolutely. For
where you live in, and everybody, especially in Arizona, we're fans of small government, keeping government local, making decisions at the lowest level. This is that opportunity. This is real democracy in your community, in your local community. You have the ability to decide what level of service will be provided to you and your family.
That's all this bond is. That's truly what this bond is.
Yeah.
Is those people, those citizens that we serve, deciding what level of service they want.
Sure.
And if you have any questions, like if someone has a question, even more on just anything we didn't hit here, on how to calculate what it's going to cost them, or what the improvements are going to be, reach out to Superstitions Administration, reach out to AFMA's administration.
Absolutely.
Reach out, ask questions. The more educated you are with these bonds and why they're going out, I think the bond will speak for itself.
Yeah, on that specifically, if anybody who's watching is interested in more information, or you'd like to use our bond cost calculator, you can go to the fire district's website. That's sfmd.az.gov. There's a whole section on bond information, frequently asked questions in the bond cost calculator, or you can navigate to superstitionfirefighters.org, and we have similar information, bond cost calculator, etc. But please, I ask the community to be engaged, be interested. The information, the education is available. It's important that we have educated voters, know what's going on, know what this is for, and what, regardless of the decision that's made, please do it from a position of being informed.
Absolutely. Would like to thank you very much for coming by.
Absolutely, thank you.
I love your passion, man.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and I see it every day when I get to see this guy. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to thank you for your service to this country, man.
Thank you.
That is a big
Appreciate it. Really do.
It's nice to meet a person like you all the time, fellow brother in the service.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate
Thank you,
it,
buddy.
Yeah.
That's the 360 podcast. Don't forget to like and follow.